My name is Dale Weedman. It was a bright and sunny day when I went to chop some wood. I had just got back from fishing and I lived in the Alaskan wilderness. The meal will be some salmon and rainbow trout tonight. I thought that it had been particularly quiet because it was only 1 in the afternoon. When winter was finally over, I had taken the opportunity to go hunting for moose. But I had not found anything, and most that I would find were more than likely just yearlings. I will have to settle for fish for now till I set the traps for bears. Traps to catch bears were easy to come by in the bush, but I always kept a gun on me just in case things went south. This year, I have caught half a dozen badgers. As I was chopping wood, a blue haze flew over my head. It burned a few trees in the process. "Holy moly, what was that?" Dale said with a look of interest in his eyes. He ran his fastest to see where it had landed, but it was getting farther and farther away. But he did eventually find it. It had crashed just inside the opening of a glacier that he had used before when collecting water to drink. But he had found enough animal skins and a small amount of gold, so he had made a well with the money he had accumulated over the years. As Dale ran to the glacier, he saw purple smoke billowing in the glacier's mouth. Just then, a woman stepped out of the glacier wearing what looked to be a pair of doctor scrubs. "Hello, I'm Dale. Are you all right?" Dale said, wondering where she had come from. "I'm Aurora, and I need your help." As she said this, she fell on the ground exhausted. She looked at Dale with a look of worry in her eyes. I had figured that a woman who fell out of the sky was pale-skinned and taller than me by 3 feet, and I was 6 feet. I got an even better look at her, and her ears were pointed. She lay there, and from the looks of her, she was too heavy to carry by me alone. I dragged her back into the ship she had crashed and landed in. It was cold to the touch, despite being on fire. I waited a few hours, and she finally woke up. When she did, Aurora gestured towards something in the corner of the ship, a strange-shaped pod. He looked at it in awe, but he could not figure out what it was. She pressed a button, and it opened. "Get in," Aurora said. She seemed demanding when she said it to whoever this girl wanted. I felt I had to do, so I jumped in. I watched as she pulled out a surgical tool and poked her finger with it. She put her finger in a container on the ship's control panel. The pod pulled it in and sucked it up, and then it released a gas. All of a sudden, I felt myself inhaling blood and shrinking a little. After a few minutes of inhaling a bloody gas, I was pushed out of the pod. "What was that thing?" Dale said with a questioning look. Aurora cleared her throat and said, "That was a bonding chamber. Since you are my first bond, I will have to take you under my wing." Dale had no idea what she was talking about, but he wondered what she meant. "What bond did you just do?" Dale said with a look of bewilderment in his eyes. Aurora looked at him and then said, "I will be having your baby in 3 days. I will give birth from the bond you shared with my blood, and this is how our species reproduce." Dale looked at Aurora with anger and then noticed a mirror. "What the hell? Why do I look like I just graduated high school? My body is muscular and I look like I wouldn't be able to go to a bar even if I wanted to." Aurora laughed and said, "Have you ever heard of the Fountain of Youth?" Dale said. "Yeah, what of it?" "What does that have to do with how I look?" Aurora said with a laugh. "You're younger now." "On my planet, we select a mate and reproduce through blood. Once the baby is born, we bond with the mate again and become married. Then we live for over 300 years on your planet and find a new mate." "How old are you?" Dale asked. Aurora said, "I am only 140 years old. My species lives for just a little 10,000 of your Earth years. Only the mates live longer than we do. Since you are my first mate, you will outlive me and will have to find a new Nordic descent on my planet. Since you have been bonded to my species, you will be able to breathe or atmosphere, but you will have to get in the pod again after 3 days, or you will go back to the age you were before, and will not be able to raise the baby with me." Dale knew he didn't want to be a father, but he had jumped in the pod. Now he was bound by the bond he shared with the alien creature, who looked more human than the Greys he thought were abducting people. Her species was a weird one, but he would not be able to live for longer than her if he did not agree. 3 days passed, and she gave birth to a baby with pointed ears, his gray eyes, but there was something different about it. The baby had human-colored skin. The baby even had a my nose, but he asked her, "Why does the baby look like me and you? This baby is our clone. It's the mix of our blood, since I was the one who gave birth to it. There will be some resemblance, but it is not my clone as yours," Aurora said with a smile. Dale didn't think cloning was possible, but just like that, Aurora had told him to get in the pod, His first child was a clone of both Dale and Aurora. What would a clone of him take to grow? As Dale stepped into the pod, he took a breath, and Aurora pressed her finger on the surgical tool, and then the gas released. As it sucked up the blood, after a few minutes, Dale was pushed out and began to shiver a little. "What the hell?" Dale said as he coughed up some blood. Aurora just said, "Oops, I left you in there for a little longer than I should. You should be fine. Just keep breathing in and out, and you should be able to expel the excess through your mouth." Dale wheezed as he breathed in and out, occasionally coughing up blood. After a minute, he had released all the blood and began to feel better. Dale breathed a sigh of relief as he could now breathe a little better. Aurora looked at Dale expectantly and said, "What should we name the baby Dale?" Dale thought for a second, and then said, "Dale Weedman II." Aurora liked this very much, and decided that since they were now married, she would tell him what the pod did. "The pod is a decontamination chamber. Since you have gone into my chamber, you are now fully my mate." Dale didn't know what to think about that just yet. Since he had left the fish out in the open, it had been swiped by a fox and some bears. As he walked back to the cabin he had built in his early 20s, he beckoned for Aurora to come inside. He still had some moose meat from last year, so he quickly grabbed some tinder and a flint and steel and started a fire in the wood stove. As they waited for the fire to take off, he started to prepare some water and a few vegetables he had bought. He threw the moose meat and the vegetables in the pot, and when the fire took off, the water started to steam and boil. Aurora asked with a puzzled look, "What is that, and why does it smell so good?" Dale just laughed and shook his head. "You are 140, and you never had moose meat. How did you even find this place anyway? I am 100 miles from anyone or anything." This was not entirely true. There was a village which was full of natives about 25 miles south of the cabin, but he only went there when it was a moment of desperation, Aurora said. "My species has a similar kind of wildlife to your Earth, but we do not hunt them. They are too small to be eaten, and wouldn't provide you with a meal. They are the size of a small fish, and are abundant since there are no predators on our planet. Our species mostly keep them as pets, and wouldn't dare kill them." Dale asked Aurora, "Are you a vegetarian? I have vegetables and some fruit in the pantry." Aurora nodded and looked with an expectant gaze. Dale sighed and opened up the cupboard and pulled out a head of cabbage he had grown, a banana which needed to be eaten anyway, and some salad dressing, a bowl with a fork, and a can of canned pineapples. Dale II was breastfeeding when he noticed that the child seemed to be the size of a toddler. Dale said, "I guess we need some food for Dale too." It had been almost 2 hours, and Dale prepared the soup in another bowl and gave it to the toddler. Dale scraped it down and was looking for seconds. "Whoa, slow down, buddy. You need to pace yourself. You can have a second bowl, but you have got to share with me." He grabbed little Dale a second blow, grabbed himself, chopped up the lettuce, and squeezed out the salad dressing. "This is wishbone Italian salad dressing," Dale said. He handed her a fork, and she dug in just a few minutes she had eaten the entire cabbage. He grabbed a can opener, opened the can of pineapples, and told Dale and Aurora to enjoy. They ate it slowly and savored it, and Dale ate the banana. Dale was surprised that a kid who had been born a few hours ago was now the size of a toddler. How did he grow up so fast? Dale asked, curious to know the answer. "Our species grows to maturity in a day," Aurora said with a smile. "A day? How did it expect me to raise a full-grown adult in a day?" Aurora laughed and said, "That was just a joke. I'll be talking in about 20 minutes, so just keep an eye out for the first words. They will probably be 'what the hell,' or something like that." Aurora laughed and gave a smile. About 30 minutes later, Dale was the size of a year old, and his first words were not "what the hell." Instead, little Dale said, "Hey bro, what's up?" Aurora just laughed and said, "I forgot to mention, since he is your clone, he will speak words you have learned, and also start to speak like you. And since you are human, he will not know very many alien words." About 4 hours later, the boy was now fully grown, and he looked just like me, only he had some features of Aurora, like the ears, and he was almost 7 feet tall. But I suspected he would not grow anymore. I looked at my son and said, "Well, boy, you need to go with me back to the ship so we can take you back home with your mother," Aurora said. "You are going to have to come with me. Without my bond, being far away will possibly revert you to your old age." "How old are you, by the way?" Dale just looked and said, "I'm almost 36. 10,000 years is a long time to live. How does one go on knowing that everyone you know is going to die? Aurora understood the repercussions of her actions, although Dale would have to come with her, since she had grown attached through the bond she would not be letting him go. Her ship was not badly damaged. Her crash had been a ruse to attract anyone nearby. She wouldn't tell him this, since she was bonded she could render him unconscious with a wave of her hand. But she wanted him to come willingly. Aurora thought for a moment and pleaded with Dale to go. Dale, let's go. I need you. I want you to go. I haven't been on my planet in 20 years. You are mine, and I won't go without you. Dale thought for a minute and decided. All right. I'll go just to drop off the boy. Then we come right back. I won't get stuck on an alien planet.